Hey everybody, Josh Sheridan here with the Barely Legal Podcast.
They demand my alter ego, but I won't go.
On today's show, we have Sean O'Brien. And normally when I start off a show, I will tell you who the person is or why they would be someone that you'd want to listen to. And with Sean, I could probably start that off with about 10 different conversations. You've worn many, many hats, but most people know you either in the restaurant business or know you through the music scene or kind of know you through other ventures that you've been involved
Just
in.
Being around.
Yeah. How do you identify yourself? Or if someone asks you what you do, what do you tell them?
Right now, essentially, I'm a kindergarten teacher.
You were just telling me
because
that.
I'm doing e-learning with my son. But I mean, the thing I did the longest, I did concert promotion and festival booking and stuff. I was started Broken Mold Entertainment. Like
how does
over a
one
decade ago.
how does one even get into that world? I mean, it doesn't seem like something you can just decide to do and start doing.
Yeah, I had like I had a mini life doing it and then didn't do it forever and then had like the real deal with it. First, when I was in high school, a good buddy of mine, Manny Leto, all of us used to go see like as many shows as we could sneak into and stuff. I just grew up like loving music.
Yeah.
And I love live music.
Give me some of the early memories.
God, I mean, my uncle was like killer musician. He went to Virginia Conservatory of Music for drums, and he went to school with like the drummer for Dave Matthews Band, and he did a little tour drumming with Marshall Tucker Band and stuff.
Yeah.
But he wasn't like he liked that stuff, but he was like really into like funk and all that stuff. So, and my dad, like our record player, was constantly like Intervision, Stevie Wonder, huge Beatles fan, not like most people's parents my age.
Right.
So tons of Beatles and
Who were some of your first concerts, though?
First concerts, I went and saw Jimmy Buffett as a real young kid because we all wanted to sneak in there and we heard it was like party time and like guys would buy you beers and stuff.
Yeah.
So I went there for that. But like to see music like that I was like really into, I would say I saw Pearl Jam.
Where'd you see them?
I saw them at Janus.
Did you see the one where he climbed the pole to the top and jumped off? Yeah.
I literally missed out on tickets there. I remember all of us standing in line to buy tickets like wrapped around the store right when I was in Plan. It was like my sophomore year, I think, and 10 had come out and gone nuts. And then I didn't score a ticket, and then somebody's older sister had tickets and like couldn't go, got in trouble, and he was like, I snagged them, let's go. So I saw them like probably 6 or 7 times. I'm 44.
So we're the same age.
So yeah, I graduated in 94.
All right, so we can talk most of the same shows. All right,
yeah,
good.
So
yeah, I remember that. Here's the thing: is I can't remember if I was at that show or not. I've heard it said so many times about him climbing up to the top and jumping.
There are those things you swear you've seen it.
Yeah,
you've heard the story.
Did I see
so
that like
much,
this?
yeah.
Like 2 days ago, a buddy of mine was like, "Did you go see Van Halen with us during the Pound Cake show?" And I was like. You know, I could have.
Yeah.
I remember at a certain point it becomes blurry.
Yeah, I definitely. I saw a lot of those shows. We went and saw like The Dead when they were at the Tampa Stadium when Black Crowes opened up, and then we all went to Gainesville because Black Crowes were playing with like the Dirty Dozen brass band the next day. So
I saw the Black Crowes with Robert Plant at.
Right on.
Whatever the Tropicana was called originally.
Yeah. I think it was just Tampa Stadium, the big sombrero or whatever.
No.
Tropicana. Yeah,
that
was like the Thunderdome, right? Because the Lightning played there.
Yeah. Crazy. So anyway, that was your
a lot of
high
that stuff.
years.
I got taken to see. I went and saw Billy Joel when I was young. For my high school graduate, my uncle was a liquor promoter in Ybor and a beer promoter.
So you've always kind of been in the world.
Man, I was super lucky. I used to go to tons of his promotions. He'd bring me when I was underage. So then when I'd come later, everybody was like, "Oh, he must be fine. Let him in." And I never really. People would be like, "My first fake ID," and I never had one. I was lucky enough that I didn't need one.
That's funny.
And but yeah, he scored me tickets to the Eagles when they did the Hell Freezes Over tour, and I took my dad because my dad was a big. I know like there's going to be so many people out there that are my friends that are going to despise me because they hate the Eagles.
You can shit talk the Eagles all you want, but
yeah, I mean Glenn Frey is obviously a dick and stuff like that. I mean, there's like things you can't deny. Like there's certain they weren't like the coolest, nicest guys, but some of their music's like. I mean, there's a reason people are super popular. They write some good songs. They wrote some good songs.
A friend of ours had a big house party. party, and he was a pretty well-off guy, and he had his own movie room. And I remember, I'm horrible at parties. Like, I'm the last one to get there and the first one to leave.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
usually I spend the entire party like in whatever room no one else is in, because I'm very socially awkward in big groups. But he had this movie room, and he was playing Hell Freezes Over, the concert film on there. And I wasn't even like, I mean, everybody like knows the Eagles, but like I wasn't like a huge fan of them. But I just found myself transfixed watching.
They put on a hell of a show. It was in Orlando at the Citrus Bowl, and Melissa Etheridge opened up. And I remember even her, she was like, I know all of you guys are waiting to see. It's been so long. She's like, I'm waiting to see him. I'm going to play like 4 songs and get out of here. She was like, because she wasn't that big back then, really. She was just, and she was like, you know, I'm going to get the hell out of here. And they played for like 4 hours.
The best story I heard, and I don't know if this is true, but it was Josh Homme from Queens of the Stone Age I think it was him who was talking about, because I could hear him doing the voice, how basically every time Eagles decided they were going to do a tour, they had to send out a recon crew to go find Joe Walsh and whatever drug hole he was in, clean him up, and then bring him back. And, you know, and you know, dude just got
he has that look. He has the look. And
I think he's
voice.
on the other side of it now. But I mean, for a while there, he had that mashed in nose, and it was like he bit off a piece of his tongue,
and his talking would be constantly like
nasal. You got those guys who just did more cocaine than you know Columbia, and their nose.
You need like subtitles,
right.
But them and and then after, you know, as I got older, it was stuff like going to see Jane's Addiction.
You saw Jane's Addiction?
Stuff like that. Yeah, I saw them actually.
That's a bucket for me.
I saw them in my junior year or senior year, I think. Probably.
Ritual de l'Habitual. I know that's not their most popular album,
right.
But nothing shocking.
But that was the more popular when we were our
age, you know, Caught Stealing and all that. But there was that one song, 3 Days, on there. Do you remember that song where it's got that bass line?
I had a roommate, because it was 9 minutes long. I had this roommate that would get hammered, and he was like, after 6 minutes, you got 1 day left. And he would say that all the time. That's every time I hear that song, I think of that guy.
Yeah, but it was a great song. I love that song.
It was great.
Anyway,
that's one of those get your money's worth in the jukebox things where you play those songs that are the long play.
You always got to play like you always got to play like Rush and Yes and Genesis and like 12-minute.
Yeah, there was
the
Chatterbox used to have Widespread Panicking, and there's this song at the end of one of their albums that's like 30 minutes and like everybody's 5 of it is like chirping of like insects and stuff, and like the bartender gets so pissed when my buddies
turning
would
it
put
off.
in.
I'm pulling the plug.
Yeah, he'd be like, if you put in that fucking Panic song, and he'd like go nuts on them. But
that'd be funny.
Yeah.
So anyway, all right. So that was high school. Now, did you?
So I did some shows. Yeah, I got off track. So Manny Leto, who's now like the head of marketing for the Tampa Bay History Museum.
Right.
We used to go to tons of shows, a group of us, and Manny started this thing our senior year called Little Palooza.
Okay.
And it was local bands, and we did the amphitheater that's in Kiley Gardens now, like when it was like totally different. And we did it at that amphitheater, and like Public Access came out, and you know, I helped them out with it, and that was the first thing I ever did that had to do with actually like, you know, we went up, like Manny got the balls up as a high school senior to walk up to these bands and be like, will you play my festival and stuff?
Yeah.
And a lot of them, you know, recognized us from being in the crowd a lot, and you know, they came, and this one band, Helium Bomb, that was super popular back then, they agreed to headline it, and it was like, oh my God, Helium Bomb's playing, you know, there'll be 100 people.
It's funny because I've had experiences like that with this show. Like my wife is friends with Ryan McDonough's wife, and she was always like, why don't you ask him if he come on? And then I know somebody else who works at the Bucks, and they're like, you want me to ask Gronkowski? I was like, you're going to ask 100 people, and 99 of them are going to say no, but one of them will say yes.
Yeah.
And once you do that, you're kind of you're buying up a tier of, you know.
Yeah, you don't. I mean, if you don't risk it, it's like it's never going to happen.
Right.
No one's bringing it to you. No one's calling you up all of a sudden to be like, "Can I play your show?" Especially when no one knows who you are. I mean, you get to that level maybe eventually, but
right. Well, the best thing ever was my wife wrote to Bruce Springsteen's PR person.
Nice,
and they like emailed back and forth. Right, and I was like,
he seems like the kind of cool guy that would actually make sure people get replied.
I couldn't have been more thrilled just the fact that they responded to her emails. Like that's that feeling alone was worth the email. But I thought that was, and then the other story that I always tell these two together is that Wolf Face,
Yeah, yeah.
So his wife tried to get him studio time with Steve Albini for one of his parties,
Okay.
and he's like, that's awesome, but it would probably just ruin the fantasy for me to go and get screamed at by him for
right.
Anyway,
it's better watching him do it to other people.
Right.
Like, oh, really?
Yeah, it's always better on being on the
Yeah,
outside.
no, their second ever show they played was our festival Anti-Warp in downtown St. Pete, and it was at Foo Bar.
Yeah.
And it was like packed to where you couldn't even literally get in the door. And like, I remember their drummer was like, I almost threw up in my wolf mask because it was like so hot in there and it was so packed. And like I said, it was the second time they ever
What was
even
the
did
bar
it.
right behind Janice? Not Masteries, but the one that's
it was like the Tamiami Club or something for a while.
It's the one that faces the water. So if you're walking into Janice, it's right to the left of the entrance.
Right to the left. Oh yeah, the Pelican Pub or whatever.
Anyways, I saw Clutch there.
Okay.
And that was that for me. It was you could take a bite out of the air. It was so thick and just sweaty and stinky and
right.
Those are some. I mean, that's the closest I'll ever get to CBGB or one of these other.
No, right? Yeah,
so.
there were those played like the Stone Lounge here in Tampa. I mean, there were some like iconic shows there. There was even a local dude who still plays out, but Joe Pop and some of his shows. I mean, back then it seemed like local music you'd get like 200, 300 people out. Nowadays, it just isn't like that as much anymore.
But I'm wondering if there's going to be a return to smaller venues.
I mean, I think now because of what's going on, you're going to have that. I mean, just because of capacity alone, if you want to be safe and you want to get people in, because, I mean, you'll have your dance clubs, I'll pack them in. You'll have those dumb people that want to get packed in there. But like people that seem to, I don't know, I'm probably being snobby, but most like live music fans and stuff like that would rather go see a live concert than just like go to a dance club and DJ thing. I think they're a little more like they're about the music, but they're also about like I need my space.
A little bit more gracious.
I don't know.
Yeah, a little bit more not refined, but gracious.
I mean, you got your punk shows where everybody wants to mix some shit up, and I get that. That shit's great. But there's going to be those things where people are going to want to be spaced out, and people are still a little nervous, and people are still wanting to have a relaxing, comfortable atmosphere.
Well, I know you know this because you just graciously reposted it on your page today. But I had Scott Anderson from Have Good One Travel. He was in here last week, and I was talking to him that if some good could come of this, I one of the things that I hope it does is it gets people more acquainted with their local music scene, because the national acts are not going to probably be coming anytime soon. Maybe going and seeing these bands who can play here without having to spend the money to go travel somewhere.
Dude, and they're out there, and it's amazing. Like our last year we did Anti-Warp in St. Pete, we had 99 bands. And out of the 99, I think it was like 86 were from Florida. Yeah. And most of that 86 were like local Florida, like, Tampa, St. Pete, Sarasota, Bradenton, and Gainesville. And they're amazing. It was as good a festival as I've seen. It doesn't, and I know I'm being like biased because I booked the bands, but I'm saying as far as like talent, and just stage presence, and there are bands out there that are as good as you're going to get. I mean, every famous band was someone's local band.
Well, yeah,
I mean, it just depends how many eyes you finally get on you.
Yes, it's like everything in life. So much of it is luck. You have these amazing bands who just kill themselves and develop a good local following, but never just hit it big. But they could headline a tour as much as anybody else that's out there. So.
Right? Yeah. There's the self-saboteurs out there that just never knew when to tighten up to be able to do the national tour, or be able to
there's a documentary I always talk about that came out recently called Murder in the Front Row, about the thrash scene in San Francisco and how Exodus and Metallica were neck and neck as to who was going to break first. And literally it was a matter of like Exodus's album cover was ugly, and then Metallica got Kirk Hammett from Exodus and Cliff Burton from Trouble, and they just now, I mean, they're the highest revenue generating act in the world, and very few people know who Exodus is. Yeah. So it's funny, in our lives, as much import as we put on these silly little stupid things, every now and again, that silly little stupid thing made all the difference in the world.
There's a band that we booked a few times, Diarrhea Planet.
Oh yeah.
And it's like they're amazing, but like is Diarrhea Planet ever going to get?
I think they broke up now. Is that the one?
They
with like
broke up. They had
guitarists?
5 lead guitar players. They were amazing.
They were amazing.
Like,
I remember seeing that. It was like 3 different solos, and
we booked them at Crowbar twice, and I'm not even that big into that music. I enjoy it when it's good, and they were good. Like I could not stop watching. Like, every one of those guys is tearing it up. 5 dudes right next to each other. So, and but that band, it's like, how big is Diarrhea Planet ever going to get?
Yeah,
like when you make that name choice, you're like kind of pigeonholing yourself in, and there's that kind of thing. But they don't give a shit because they just want to fucking rock, and that's great.
Right?
And it's like, you know, some people don't have the need to be huge. You know,
no, there's honor in that for sure. And then when I had Tom and I went and did Bubba the Love Sponge a couple weeks ago, and he had a Max Sabbath shirt on. He was like, "Do you know them?" And I was like, I don't know if I do. He's like, oh, this is right up your fucking alley. If you love Wolfface, you're gonna. So he's playing. He was sending me the videos. I was like, this is badass. And so
they were with the Ned Flanders, those guys,
in Diddly Doodly or whatever.
Yeah.
And then what was the other one that was kind of big? They have the one. They're kind of old timey rock music. Oh God, it's gonna kill me. You're gonna know who this is. There's a bigger show. Everybody talks about them. Titus Andronicus.
Okay, yeah.
And they had that one album that was kind of about.
I know who you're talking about.
But anyway, everybody always tells me about when they played there, like what a big deal that was. So.
Yeah, they've done Crowbar a couple times. Yeah, Max Sabbath has done it. Yeah, Diarrhea Planet a couple times. Crowbar's had some amazing shows.
It really
has. It's had some huge acts. And then, I mean, we did OK Go there, and that was a sold out killer like stage show. That was unbelievable. You know what
my favorite?
Those guys are amazing.
My favorite Crowbar show is Zootsmas.
Yeah, Zootsmas. Yeah, they every year they have a good time with that.
So that's like you talk about getting your bang for your buck, man. You get like about 5 concerts in one. You know, they get up there at about 7 o'clock and play till about 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
and everything from Coolio to to Guns N' Roses and everything else. So I'm skipping ahead though. So you start off coming out of high school.
Did Little Palooza, and then we started booking a couple other shows. We did like for us this huge like New Year's Eve concert in the courtyard of Carmine's, and like we were booking a friend's brother's band. This band Toby, that Dave Drake. I don't know if you know Dave Drake. Dave Drake was in that band. He was in Red Tide, and he actually works at Crowbar. And did that just for a little while for fun. And then Manny went off and moved and went to Georgia State for music business. And me and the other partner, Johnny, did it for a little while.
So just walk me through so that I can understand exactly what the job is. Like
essentially just
making calls and saying, hey, well,
when you're managing bands which is what we were doing mostly. Because when I stopped and I started up again, me and Phil started as Broken Mold. First, we did booking. We were doing like band booking and doing tour manager stuff and stuff like that. And then you're kind of just going, you're calling up venues, seeing, talking to promoters, trying to just make friends with even bands on the bill, and be like, oh, next time if you get a gig, if we get something, we'll hit you up, like guys from out of town. Like,
so that's how you do it. You kind of leverage it with other venues to kind of
just be friends. Like for us with Broken Mold, it literally started out, we did shows. We had this band, Nervous Turkey was the first band we managed, and Nervous Turkey got really big, and what we would do was we did shows in the courtyard of my apartment on Davis Island.
Oh wow!
And we would do, and it's Ernie Locke.
God, knowing Davis Island as I do, the fact that you were able to pull that off is amazing.
Never had cops come. We did like 4 of them. We were super smart about it, though. We were like, a bunch of you live around here. If you want to get stoned, go smoke in your apartment. You know, we got 2 porta potties so people weren't pissing in people's yards. We were like super like we want to make sure it was done before the sun fully went down, and it started not so early where we were waking people up.
Pretty much every friggin' attorney in Tampa.
But we were on the apartment side, which is a little
the wrong side of the tracks.
If there is a wrong side of the tracks, it is on. But we would do. Ernie would do barbecue, and we would do $10 and it would be kill the keg, all you could eat barbecue, and Nervous Turkey would play like 4 hours. And we started getting packed. And then like the guys from Yeoman's and New World were like, hey, if you guys ever want to, because I'm
just starting to learn what a scene the Yeoman's on Davis Island
for a while.
Open Mic and then with the Holy Terror and all these. I didn't realize
because
that was
it's one
such
of those things you level up, and it's like no one's going to book you at the 100 or 200 or 400 until, you could bring 50 or 100 people. So you start at Yeoman's, which is the small spot because they were cool and they were down to have bands in and give people a try. And you pack Yeoman's and you hopefully go over to like New World or something. And then if you could pack New World, you move up to Crowbar. If you pack Crowbar, you move, you just keep.
So there is kind of a hierarchy.
Yeah, and there's like that thing, like there's like I got to play. Oh, now we can play at New World, or My Morning Jacket played here.
Yeah,
stuff like that. And now I'm playing at Crowbar.
Right.
And I saw all these amazing bands here, and
right.
You keep, it's something. It's for a band, and then you become that band. You're like, okay, now I can play at Crowbar, and I can put it together a show. Or now, once we became promoters, now we're asking people to play our shows instead of them asking us to play your show.
How'd you meet Tom?
Through Crowbar. Well, actually, first going to shows at the Ritz or Masquerades when he ran Masquerades.
Right.
I met him a few times there. And then when he opened up Crowbar, going over and seeing him at shows. Because like I said, before I even did this, I was always going to tons of shows.
Right.
So, and then just eventually getting to do shows there. And then we became really close. I mean, he was in my wedding. Like,
oh, really?
Yeah. We're like, he's one of the best friends a guy could have. He's like,
he's a good
I love that guy to death.
Yeah.
Like, unabashedly.
He's getting, God, yeah. Lately people are picking on him though.
Well, it's a political thing,
Yeah.
If you look at like Facebook, the second I see someone make a comment, I'm like, when I click on their page, it's going to have this, and this on it,
Yeah.
And any guy that's doing that with him, it's going to be someone that says like COVID doesn't exist. And there's going to be someone that's like, why are these people, these protesters and looters, and they're going to have an American flag picture. And there's going to, and it's like, which is sad that the American flag is something that's thought of a negative now, but it's like, I just know I'm going to see those things. And everybody who ever busts his balls or like calls him a baby for like wanting us to be safe and wanting to help people all over the country, like get their money back. Like if that's being a baby, everybody should be a baby. Like everybody should cry and get upset.
Well, the other thing that's funny about it though, is if you saw him in person, I dare you to fucking say Morse code.
Right.
It's easy to do on your computer.
Mr. Tuesday Night, come off the top rope on you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
he's how he looks.
He's a great guy to have in your corner, and that's 100%. The thing is like in person, but it's not just words. The guy is full action. He is ready to go.
Now, how is it for you doing stuff at different venues within Ybor, within Tampa? Like, is there kind of a loyalty issue there? The analogy that I'll use is about 80 pounds ago, I was really into jiu-jitsu.
Right.
And you go to your school and you can visit another school, but you can't train at another school. And it's very much.
There's certain rules, like, how there's like the unwritten rules of baseball. People always talk about there's like the unwritten rules of promoting where it's like, if a band is played at this venue before, you usually, when they come back, give that venue the option. Unless sometimes the band's like, we've outgrown that venue.
Right.
Or we hate that sound guy.
Right.
Or we want a stage instead of playing on a floor now, or blah, blah, blah. So sometimes it's not and you go, like, if you're, like, we were always broken mold. Like, what I was happy with us is we were always like up front. We would tell people, this is about to happen, or we're doing this. And, you go to the venue and you're like, listen, I'm about to announce a show. And I know they played here before, but they don't want to play.
Seems very political.
We tried
like
to steer them this
real
way,
easy to get someone butthurt with you.
Oh no, it is. Other promoters, like if an agent comes to you and they're like, I want to book this band, and you're like, well, didn't so and so do them last time? And they're like, he sucked. He didn't do it right. Or we didn't like the way he promoted,
right.
Or he like did this or that. And you're not going to turn it down. The band's coming.
Right.
And if it did a good show, you're like, all right, I'll take it. And then you have to call that guy and be like, listen, the agent just hit me up and said, they don't want to use you as a promoter. We're going to do the show this time around. And, that happens sometimes.
Yeah.
Other times, there are some, disrespectful promoters that'll go after a band, even though they know you were the promoter that booked them and stuff like that. So, there's, like I said, it's unwritten. You could do whatever you want, but it's like how much you want to work in a city, how you want to be thought of amongst the people in your business. And that's kind of how you got to ride it.
Now, are you dealing directly with bands? Or are you dealing with their agents? Or are you dealing?
It really depends. I always tell people are like, so how does a concert work? And it's like,
each time is
everyone's a total different time. If some bands have an agent, some bands are local or don't. Even some national bands, like when we booked Cody Chestnut for,
oh wow,
for Tropical Heat Wave, he was booking himself essentially. He was like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Bill Murray books himself for.
Oh, I know he's got a fucking answering machine
yeah.
or whatever. Yeah.
Like, you know, some people are like, I don't care. Then there's some people that have an agent or a manager. There's local bands that sometimes are like, talk to my agent. Like Keith Ulrich's famous for like, if you're a band that lives anywhere around this area and you tell me to talk to an agent, I'm just not going to book you.
Yeah.
He's like, I could just talk to the band. You're not that big. You want to have your agent call someone in North Carolina or Atlanta and get you a show or this or that, that's fine. But he's like, if you're a local band and you try to send me to an agent, I'm going to tell you that's fine.
He's another great one. I'm suffering from the fact that my office is so close to his establishment.
Yeah.
You know, when I have an hour to kill, I'm usually $100 lighter than I was.
I finally had to break my vinyl habit. Now I'm back like with comic books like a little kid, but vinyl, like I had a pretty insane collection for a while there. I've pared it down to like 120 of like my favorite things.
Yeah, well, that's smart.
Yeah.
I put it off forever and ever and ever because I dumped so much money into CDs, and then I thought with Spotify I was I'd cut the cord from tangible music.
Right,
but then my wife and I, not last year but the year before, we went up to Asheville, and we happened to be up there during one of the record store days, and my wife loves to sleep in, and I usually like 6 o'clock. I can't sleep anymore. So I was like, I'm going to Uber to this record store, and got a couple things. And it was just like that gateway, just like, dude, fuck.
That's what happened to me with the comic book thing. Is I went on my bachelor party to Atlanta, and I had so many records. I went to this record store, and there was nothing I really needed or wanted that they had, and they had all these comics. I'm like, well, driving back home is going to be a few hours. I'll just take something to read real quick, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, I'm like buying a few more, and I'm like, oh my god, what's wrong with me?
What was your comic book store growing up? Did you ever go to Wilson's bookstore over in St. Pete?
No, I went. There was Green Shift. Because I was in Tampa, so Green Shift was my one, and then there was one that was in like Britain Plaza, but I didn't move to Tampa until I was like 13. So,
where'd you move here from?
Connecticut.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I grew up in Connecticut.
Okay.
Partially grew up in Connecticut, and then every summer I would go back for almost the whole summer because I was like, I'm never gonna live in Florida all my life, and now I'm 44 and I've never left since then. But when I was a kid, I'm like, this is just until I get out of high school, and then I'm moving right back up north.
Florida is a dynamic and just kind of,
it gets you.
It's weird. It's very weird.
Yeah.
For a lot of my youth, I was absolutely certain I was.
Did you grow up here, born and raised?
St. Pete,
okay.
Born and raised. The only time I didn't live here was when I went to UCF in Orlando.
I went to UCF for a couple of years. I'm not a graduate, but I was there a few years.
What years were you there?
94, 95, and 95,
we were
96.
We were there together, yeah.
I lived at CVI.
I lived at CVI.
Really?
We might have hustled pool together.
Oh my gosh!
Had that crack in the table.
Yeah.
Play the crack.
It was the worst pool table ever.
I used to hustle.
It was right next to their little like store, like restaurant that would deliver at nights or whatever.
Oh yeah, and then next to that was the cafeteria where the football team lived there.
No, right? Yeah,
and they would just pile their plates up.
Oh, dude, that's who I lived with. All those guys, because
that's hilarious.
Were
you there in '94?
Yeah.
Oh shit. So, so I spent a lot of time. So I didn't have a car my first year. So I remember I would ride my bike to and from school, and there was that big hill that you come down.
Yeah.
I used to love bombing that hill on my beach cruiser. But then I would hustle pool with the football players. I remember we didn't have laptops yet. I had a word processor, and I would write.
Oh yeah, I had no computer back then.
I would write papers for the basketball team, and then across the street where that movie theater was, there was a record shop there. And I used to blow so much money.
I used to work the door. I was in the Caribbean Student Union with that because I had a student I worked on the campus to get money or whatever. I can't even remember what that was called anymore, but to like pay for some of your school.
Right.
And they had me on the information desk, which is like as a freshman at school while you're working at they gave me like a folder, and they're like, this is every phone number in every location. Just point to this. And almost everybody that worked there was from the Caribbean for some reason.
Interesting.
And they were like, you want to join the Caribbean Student Union? I'm like, dude, I'm like as white as can be.
Probably aping off of Disney, how they're very national. Like,
I don't know. I was like, I'm as white as can be. They're like, you don't have to be from it. You could just go. So I started going to a lot of their parties, and I ended up working the door, and they had like this original Jamaican Me Crazy night, and I would work the door for this one DJ
some
Jaw.
Sweet ganja.
And it was great, dude. All the guys from the football team, because we all lived together, they would all come over, and I would let them all in, and then it would just, it was a fun time.
Did you ever go down
That's
to
why
Church?
I didn't graduate.
Well, yeah. Did you ever go down to Church Street?
Not much.
Yeah.
We didn't do that much. I went to a few
What was the
shows.
one that was
but, yeah.
so it's University is the one that drives right into the school.
It was Colonial, I think.
There was a big club there on Colonial, and I remember
The Frat House was a
that
big club there.
I remember there was something with there was a Dante Culpepper
because
incident
we used to
there,
go.
and
Well, we used to go with Dante because Dante could get him free, and they would serve him, and it was like all the.
I used to play basketball with him in the English building. He was a badass basketball player.
Oh no,
too.
he was great. He was an insane baseball player. He got drafted. He used to. I caught like messing around, catching him and stuff, and dude, he used to like throw heat. He was an all around amazing athlete. I blew that school up. I mean, he put him on the map.
Oh, I haven't been back in ages, but I've heard it's unrecognizable now.
Yeah. Like 2 years after I went there, they put a bar on campus or whatever, and I just remember thinking to myself, I might have actually gone to.
I vaguely remember that towards the end of my time there. And the other thing that used to be fun though is to go watch the games. What's the football team? What's the field called?
Yeah. Oh, well, when I played, they would play at the Citrus Bowl a lot because they didn't have the
Citrus
field
Bowl.
yet.
That's what I'm talking about. And they had that big fucking lake there, and everybody would end up getting shit faced and swimming in the lake and hitting golf balls into the lake. And
I remember the second year we went there where they played it was Dante's first year and played Hawaii, and that was like
I remember that game
because all the players were like, "We're going to fucking Hawaii."
I remember,
yeah, and I wanted to go to
that was that was kind of the beginning of them kind of turning into a
went
legitimate.
to Florida State and Florida. We were like actually like just a field goal away at halftime, and that was like a huge deal. Like Dante had played amazing, and
I think Daniel Tosh was there around that time, Tosh.0, and then also the guys. I always mention this is like the claims to fame that I know of for UCF. Then the guys who did the Blair Witch Project,
them and the dude who created what's the taco place that's
Tijuana Flats.
Tijuana Flats.
Yeah, that started out.
That kid was there too.
That's right.
Yeah,
there you go. Tacos, Blair Witch.
I know. There you go.
Tacos,
what else is there? Horror. Internet
Dante Culpepper. He's got to be retired by now.
Oh yeah, way retired. Yeah.
I always forget how old I am. Like, do you remember when like football players were older than you?
The only thing that reminds me how old I am is kids. When I reference them, they're like, "What the hell are you talking about?" I'm like, "Oh right, yeah." No one, you have no clue.
So I about every 10 years try and get back into skateboarding. That's something that happens to me, and so I'll go to skate park at Tampa.
The first fall.
And I don't realize I'm 6'4", 285 pounds, and to me, I'm like, just fucking buying some shit, and everybody else is like, what's this guy doing? He's gonna kill himself. But no, for sure. So at some point along the way, you get into the restaurant world. Yeah,
well, what happened, I stopped doing when I had our son Henry a little soon after that. I stopped doing
that was what our son Bo, my wife wanted Bo, and I wanted
my
Henry.
Dad's Henry, so I'm naming him after my pops. Yeah,
awesome name.
Little Hanky.
Little Hank, Hank the Tank, yeah.
But he, when we had him shortly after that, I stopped doing it because my wife, like, she works New York
stuff.
Life, and she's like high up there. So, I would stay home with him during the day, but then when she would get off work, it was like tag out, and I'd be out all night doing the show, and that just that's not fair after a while. Yeah. So I stopped.
Bravo for picking up on that.
Yeah, no. Well, she helped.
Attorney,
she helped.
She alerted you to the issue.
Yeah. No, I mean, no, but it's obvious. It's obvious after a while because as having a kid, like, and especially having that little dude, I didn't want to go as much as I used to.
For sure,
that was the thing. It was like back in the day. Yeah, I wanted to be out till 3 in the morning. I got home at 5 or 6. And it used to be like even if the show was over early, I was like, yeah, but I'm not going to get to put him to bed. And it was like, I got to be where I didn't really want it as much.
It's got to be a big draw to get you out of the house for sure.
Yeah,
my daughter's getting to an age now, so my daughter knows your mom because she went to JCC.
Okay,
and your mom
yeah.
kind of runs the show over there.
Right, yeah.
But my daughter's now approaching 7, which I'm learning is the age that you start to hate your father.
Yeah, really.
So, but my son Bo, who's 2, is stuck.
You're the world. Yeah.
And so I'm, luckily that's easing my transition into being the enemy for my daughter as being the hero for my son. But
there you go.
Yeah, no, but
you need to get him to put in a few good words for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, can you talk to her? Because she's just not listening to me. But anyway, no, I hear you.
Yeah.
It's, well, my wife and I, we always have, we should go away, just the two of us for the weekend or whatever. And usually we get about 4 hours in and we're like, I wonder what they're doing.
Yeah, man.
I
would get like that. You get like so pumped up and you're like, he's going to the grandparents for the weekend, and I'm going to do whatever I want. And as you're leaving, he's like, I'll really miss you, Dad. You're like, oh my God, forget it. We don't have to do this.
Come back.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't mean it.
But of course, and then you're having fun. I mean, you got to have fun.
Right.
But anyway, so I stopped doing that, and then I screwed around. I had this little project called Bronze Age Buttons for a little while.
Okay. Well, let's not skip over that because that's badass.
Yeah. I did it. It was out of like literally sitting around with Henry doing nothing during the day and being like, oh, I'll make a few buttons that say pow and wham. And then, as I started to do that, like you said, my mom runs a preschool, so I snagged a button machine from her and another friend, Christopher James, who's an amazing musician. He lent me one that he used to use to make his like buttons for when you go on tour. And I started making them out of old comic books. It was like comic books from like the late 70s, idea. Early 80s. So that's what it was, the Bronze Age of comics.
So I have two cousins who are graphic designers, and if I remember to, I'm gonna send you one of them because you'd love him. He's right up your alley, and he does like a lot of modern things that are very throwback to that age. And he actually got hired to do a bunch of stuff for Chipotle and for Denny's, and it's a lot of that like, is it 8-bit like Nintendo Atari looking stuff?
Yeah.
And right up that alley. But I always loved that world that was from our youth. And so from Greg, from Wolfface that we've talked about, he does these little action figures. Just as a hobby.
I love his.
Have you seen them?
Hilarious. Yeah. There's another guy called Obvious Plant that does them as well, and I love that stuff.
Oh,
man.
it's so
hilarious.
Cool. Yeah,
it's so good.
Yeah. So
like,
anyway.
I could. Yeah, if I was rich, I would have like some people would buy like all the nice cars and this and that. I would just have tons of like goofy toys and posters and like stuff like that. Would where I'd spend my money.
For me, it's sneakers, skateboards. I guess records and T-shirts. My wife's like, if you bring home another fucking T-shirt,
I do. I have a lot of T-shirts. Also, man, definitely.
I've got this whole routine now in place though, where they get ordered to the office and then they just get there's like a soft opening.
And then all of a sudden you're wearing it one day.
Yeah, it's like, did you wear that to work this morning? It's like, yeah. So I just kind of.
I don't remember you owning that shirt.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I got it a while back. Yeah. I just never wear it.
But anyway, so now, I know that was popular because I remember seeing them it's until you came today and told me that was you. I didn't know that, but because Cafe Hey, where I just had lunch today, I remember seeing them all the time. What's the record place up on Nebraska?
On Nebraska, you mean Keith's?
No, no.
Oh, you mean
by the go-kart place?
Mojo? No, not Mojo.
Well.
We were at Mojo
Disc Exchange, or anyway, I think they were up there, but
we were pretty much I had them in like 14 stores. We were at like Squaresville, and like you said, Cafe Hey. We were at Daddy Cool.
That sucks. Squaresville.
Yeah, it was a bummer, man.
That's got to be a hard business to keep in.
And
you know what happened to him?
I don't. I just know. Yeah, he ended up.
He kept that alive for a good.
Oh yeah, I mean, he started out. He was on Howard forever.
I remember that, right?
And then he moved to Bay to Bay, and he was there for another 4 or 5 years.
I think he did pretty well just off of Gasparilla and like sports team.
Yeah, definitely. Stuff. That's one of those job businesses. I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't have an online store.
Yeah,
like after a while, you got to think like screw brick and mortar, and like I'll just sell it out of my house and like mail it out to people. And
did you make money off of that? I know it was popular.
Yeah. I mean, we definitely didn't buy a house off of it or anything, but it was fun. If I spent more time on it, I could have definitely made more money on it. It was one of those things where it was like a side thing and it was fun and for a while, but it was like just me doing it myself and I had the dude. And then once I decided to do Cass Street, there was like no time for that. Like a restaurant is like crazy all the time.
Well, you seem to be drawn to these worlds that are a challenge. Like none of these are like.
Well, yeah, I did the music and then I did the pseudo art. Like I'm no artist, but like we end up doing a lot of art shows and like found art stuff.
Why do you think that? Why do you think you kind of are in these kind of left of center?
I don't know. I've never been into the business
corporate
world. Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying I don't take orders from nobody, but everybody would rather give their own orders or like, and it was one of those things where I think after doing Broken Mold Entertainment for like 10 years, it was like I couldn't imagine just sitting in an office in front of a computer with some guy like punching in and out. And
for sure,
luckily I have a lot of friends that have supported.
Well, that's one thing that you've got an amazing book of connections that you've built up over.
And it's one of those things. You hopefully you treat enough people good where they like think about you and they're wanting to help you out too. And I've been lucky enough, where I've had a good amount of friends and they've helped me out amazing. Like I wouldn't do all this by myself. I couldn't, and so when I did the Bronze Age Buns things, I was getting help. Like Manny from Daddy Cool hired me, and I was like pricing and cleaning records and stuff, and just to make a little.
Were you living over that way?
No, I was going over the bridge.
Oh, wow.
And like doing it a few
now
days
they're
a week.
Now they're out. I grew up over there, and I can't tell you where they're at.
No, they're in that warehouse district area,
which I guess is becoming a thing. But I went there once in the new place, but I was like, I don't even know where I am right now.
Yeah, I did a few Bronze Age Buttons things there, and then I did a Cass Street before we opened Cass Street. When we found out we weren't opening, I essentially went back to the promoter roots and like booked a tour of our restaurant,
right,
to like do like little pop-ups around to kind of get the word out. And one of them we did at that new Daddy Cool for Record Store Day, actually.
Restaurant business seems like it's got to be a motherfucker.
And especially when you happen to time it right before COVID, and you happen to time it when your business opens up a couple months later, they rip apart your whole street and no one could get to you.
I was talking to Mike Lundy over there because they put up that gorgeous office right there on the corner, and I was asking him, I was like, did they tell you they were going to do that? And he's like, there might have been a piece of mail that I missed, but literally like one day I came to work and the fucking thing was all
They told us
up.
like we bought the place after they had already had their meeting about it, but our landlord should have told us or whatever. But it was one of those things where when they decide to do it, they kind of tell you like, oh, we're doing it next week. And like it's all done.
Is that done yet?
And no, but they're almost finished.
What are they doing? I mean, Jesus,
they're putting in storm.
Quicker.
Yeah, it's crazy. They're putting in storm storm drains and stuff. And so they ripped it up a good from Hooch and Hot right there on the corner all the way to was it Rome? But so between that and COVID and everything, that alone, and what's funny is like when you're first opening up a restaurant, everybody who's in the restaurant business like, don't do it. It's like a big mistake. It's going to drive you insane. It's going to just blah blah blah.
Yeah, and
you're like, yeah, I get it. There might be this and that, but but everybody's like, you never know what'll happen. This could happen, that could happen, and it's like this is one of those things. It's like you never know. Oh, they'll just shut down your whole street or. I remember when I was young, that happened to like a bunch of places in Ybor when they built the trolley. Like they ripped up that street for so long on 8th. There were a bunch of small restaurants that just died.
Well, it kind of happened it's happened a bunch of times in Hyde Park too. You know, like with Pecan or one of these places that get in there and then like the rent quadruples or
Yeah,
it just gets crazy. So the restaurant scene and the club scene, it's
a lot of nights.
It's very hard to do if you're a family person, I would imagine. Yeah. I had Joe Render Sr. in here and talking to him about kind of his travails. And
that guy, I'm sure.
Have you ever met him before? Do you know him?
When I was younger, a friend of mine's sister's best friend married Luke Leroux, who was his lawyer.
Oh, sure.
So when I was younger, we'd sometimes see them and stuff.
I love Luke. Luke keeps promising to come over here, but Luke's kind of...
He's a super cool guy. He definitely probably doesn't know me, but when I was like in my early teens and like mid-teens, like he would be at tons of family get-togethers and stuff.
He and I co-counseled when Uber entered the scene here. Okay. And the city of Tampa and city of Pinellas County and St. Pete were ticketing the hell out of Uber drivers because they didn't have all the licensure that
like all the
taxi drivers
stuff, gotcha.
And the taxi drivers were like, fuck these people, we're not going to let them come in, move in on our territory.
And in New York they're hardcore.
Those medallions
because they cost so much money to
but so Luke and I were on that and I got the case and was like, I know I can go to court and do all the whatever work, but when it comes time to make the argument about this, I want it to be Luke, because when I started at the state attorney's office, my wife prosecuted all the ordinance violations, and it was all the strip clubs at that time. And Luke was the guy that was in there arguing about cleavage of the nates and the buttocks 6 feet away or 6 foot rule and blah, 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 blah. And he was brilliant.
He's had years of defending,
for
Redner
sure. But anyway, so the Redner was where I was going with that. When Redner came in, I don't know if you've listened to that one, but you should if you haven't. Dude's brilliant. Just a brilliant business. He understands people almost better than anybody I've ever run across. And he just said so many great things. One of the just an example is he said, well, two things. One is I never have a guy manage your strip club because you're destined for for unwanted pregnancies or whatever else. So that's number one. But number two is he said if a guy ever gets drunk and gets up on the stage, I don't send my bouncers over there. I just tell the girls to get off the stage. And he's like, as soon as the girls get off the stage, the whole
awkward, super awkward.
Well, everybody in the place will get that guy off for you.
True, yeah.
It's just like that's that kind of like you can't learn that. That's just
it's one of those the experience,
right?
Thing. Yeah.
So anyway, with the restaurant and the clubs, it's always funny to me which ones make it and which ones don't, and like some places that just have survived forever, you can't really figure out what they did that other people didn't do or.
Yeah. Some places are bad luck. Some places you can, obviously, you're like that or that. But like, yeah, some places it's just wrong, bad timing.
I grew up in St. Pete going to El Cap all the time. Great
Best
burgers
around, yeah.
But I mean, by the math, that place shouldn't work.
Right.
It's not in a place that it should work. The parking sucks. The seating sucks.
No, yeah.
The bathroom sucks.
Well, that's one of those. Yeah, if you make it long enough to where you could be legendary, where now people don't care. Yeah. Like I remember the old Goody Goody. Like they had the worst service in the world.
Yeah.
But it would still be packed all the time because it was a
you become hallowed, legendary.
Yeah. Or like even what's the place in Ybor? Oh my God, I can't believe I'm blanking on it. But there's the Spanish place in Ybor. And the service is known to be like bad, but like they give you so much food, it's so good, and like people still go and they're like, yeah, we could take it. She'll ignore
that's what
us.
killed me about New
She'll ignore us or give us a dirty look or something, but I want that food, so I don't really care. And it's like,
well, and that's I never got to be a part of or be in the world of New World Brewery when it was a thing. I've eaten there before, and I love the fucking
the barbecue.
Oh my
lunch.
God, it was the best thing ever, but. I kind of came in on the tail end of that right before they closed up, but you hear so many great stories about that place and bands that played there, and I've not even laid eyes on
some of the best nights of my life there, without a doubt. Yeah.
How do you know the new place?
I have not, because it happened to open up just around when everything went crazy with me and because I've had so many things going on in my life in the last few months aside from COVID, so it's like I haven't been out much at all. My dad's sick and I spend a lot of time with him, so I can't go to too many places. I mask up usually like crazy and I don't know the last time I've been to a bar or restaurant.
I was just having that conversation with a buddy of mine, an attorney over in Pinellas right now. His wife's mom is pretty sick with cancer, and I lost both my parents right before COVID, like 2 years years leading up to.
Oh man!
And I think the positive of it is I don't have to worry about them through this, and I got to be by their side. I held both of them in my hands when they passed, and I think about how many people. It's a good thing for me. It's a happy thing.
When my dad went in for he had a triple bypass. Not to turn this downer part, but we found out he had cancer, and when he was taking his first chemo thing, he had a minor heart attack. So then they sent him, he has a triple bypass, and it went from he was going in to get a treatment to now I don't see him for like 2 weeks.
It's insanity.
And it was crazy, and it's like just the timing of it's horrible. And you think
when the president says shit like don't let it.
It's fine.
Dominate your life.
Yeah,
it's like you are the most tone deaf motherfucker in the world.
And that's the thing. And sometimes it's not even tone deaf. He just doesn't really give a shit. I think people give him too much, not enough credit for how horrible he could be. I think sometimes he just doesn't care at all.
Yeah.
Which is definitely worse. Stupid. You could be like, oh, sorry, I didn't get it. But sometimes I think he isn't trying to get it.
So how involved are you in Tom's kind of new
I helped him because it just coincided with me. Like I said, I've had to step back from doing pretty much a lot of stuff because I'm between helping taking care of my dad and doing the e-learning kindergarten every day.
Right.
That's pretty much my day. So I had been talking to Tom when he was going through this, and I was like, if I could help you in any way, seeing I'm sitting at home, dude, just give me a holler if you want me to. And he just hit me up. He was like, listen, I'm going to start building like my comeback. I'm trying to figure out like a few things, I have to wait to see what the city does and this or that, but I'm targeting this. And I'm just going to book everything in house now because it's going to be so small and I want to just do it my way and figure everything out my way. He's like, if you want to help me do some of that and work for Crowbar. And I'm like, dude, are you kidding me? I'd love to help out. I'd been away for so long and I miss it all the time. Every Facebook memories will kill you,
Oh, well, this
like for
this
me,
is the
like
first
every
year
Facebook memory is this day
Yeah.
is these, this year, this show, this year, that show. And I look at it over and over. I'm like, oh man. So I was like, yeah, I'd love to. And I love Tom and I love the place and anything I could do to help, I'm all about it. So he's like, let's start booking, all of October, November, December. And I'm like, all right. So I started helping him do that. And now I'm going to kind of help him with that and the promotion. And
how do you think it'll
shows? And
how do you think it'll, this is, so I've been talking to him a little bit about booking a show in December.
Right.
And, my first foray into that world. So I don't consider it from an angle that the artists do and the other people do.
Right.
But, it hadn't occurred to me at first, but do you think you're going to be able to have an atmosphere that's fun for the bands to play in?
I think a lot of the bands, I mean, obviously there's not going to be the people jammed together, screaming and jumping and dancing and stuff like that, because the plan is it's going to be mainly seated. There'll be a few like socially distanced areas to stand,
which is going to cater more to a certain type of music, I think.
Yeah, it will, but we're still going to have a couple metal bands there. We're still going to have a few rap acts there. I mean, it's going to be everything. It's just going to be like a different way of seeing it.
Right.
But I think a lot of these bands are so anxious just to play
and fans just to go. I mean,
a band that loves music could have one fan in the crowd and they'll play like it's fucking Madison Square Garden.
Right.
So if you're a band that likes music and maybe you don't have all these people, but you got 100 people sitting there and clapping for the songs and some of them sing along, this and that. I mean, I think you're still, the people that go to these shows are going to be music lovers. They're not going to be people that, if you're,
I can't wait.
I can't wait to see it.
I want to see Achilles. I want to see Have Gun Will Travel.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for Florida Night Heat. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they haven't played for like 3 years since actually New World's final show was their last show because two of the guys moved, but they're actually reuniting because how much they love Crowbar. I got them all to come and they're reuniting and they're playing a show on Halloween. So I'm pretty excited for that because I love those guys. I haven't seen them for like 3 years. So.
There's some synchronicity in my own little universe of me becoming more and more aware of local acts. You know, I've become friendly with Keith at Microgroove and Elliot Mayo from Wreath and Vacancy. And,
I know of him, but
he's really gotten me into a lot of the heavier local bands like Horsewhip and some of these other people that come out. And so as I'm kind of falling in love again with music, but on the local scene instead of the national scene, the prospect of that being what's going to be playing more kind of excites me. It's
the people who are really loving it. It's not like the grind, like, oh, we're going to do this set tonight that we did last night, that we did the night before. Like the people that are and like I said, there's still that trepidation of going out. So the people that are willing to do it, it's like they're wanting to play, like they're ready, So I'm pretty excited too. Another band, Automatic, we have playing for Crowbar's anniversary party. They haven't played. I think their last show was also New World. All these people came out and played for New World's final show. So they're another one. I don't think they've played since that. So there's going to be a few bands that you just haven't got to see in forever also, besides the bands that you just haven't got to see for the last 6 months, which feels like forever.
You got to do me this favor. So Greg's got this hardcore band from the early 2000s. They put out a couple albums on Bandcamp called Next Season.
Okay.
And I've been listening to them a ton, and I've been bitching them out every day. It's like, you got to put this on Spotify. You got to, and if you do a reunion tour, you got to do it locally.
Next season?
Next season. Which is it's funny because he's always got a theme for his band. Next Season is a Star Wars reference. So like Wolfface is T Wolf. It's kind of a Star Wars hardcore band.
Wolfface, man, those guys are great. They also did. I did a thing called Real Deal Thursdays at Tom's. We did once a month. We would do a movie and then have a band play the soundtrack.
Oh my god!
And
ideal for that.
Oh, it was great. But for them, instead of playing the soundtrack, we just had them play. It was like watch his autobiography first, and then have Wolfface come out.
But you guys were supposed to do. Was it Pre-Fest when that whole thing went away? And I think they were going to come.
Well, I never did Pre-Fest, but Tom did that. PBR mostly booked that themselves, or Tony from No Idea Records and all that. They booked all that.
So when the e-learning dries up for you and all this, I mean, have you put too much?
I'd like to get fully back into it. I mean, if there starts to be bigger tours, or we just more people. I mean, the deal with Crowbar is the idea is for right now we do it this way, and if things get better, we start letting a few more people in, and we start letting a few more people in. We ease into it. I mean, the hope is that sometime it becomes, what it used to be. I don't know if it'll ever become exactly what it used to be. But.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm a fan of all types of music, but my heart is the metal and the hardcore and all that.
Yeah.
So the not having that pit, I mean, I don't even go into the pit anymore, but not having that there is part of the experience.
I mean, that's
it's
you don't have
different.
to be in it to get for it to get you riled up and get the adrenaline pump, the heart pumping and stuff. It just it gets you into it, and all that, even just the dancing, like all that shit. It's gonna be a while before it's back to semi-normal, but I'm down to get back into it. I missed it a lot. So
before you go, and I'm put you on the spot, but are there any like top 3 shows, top 5, like just ones that were either crazy or amazing or caught you off guard or
that I've put on or seen?
Either way,
either or.
I just love hearing these stories from people.
My favorite thing I ever did is the Real Deal Thursday we did with Have Gun Will Travel. Speaking of Scott, we did the Last Waltz.
Oh, okay.
And I booked Have Gun as the band, and then aside from Sean Kyle helped me pick 2 people, but other than that, I picked every act essentially as like, this guy will play this person to come on, this act will play this person to come on, and all of them were so cool. I mean, Have Gun alone to trust me to be like, yeah, we'll do that, and yeah, you could tell this person we've never worked with before that he could play with us on this song,
right?
You could tell, and that was such a great night. It was Crowbar, was sold out. It went perfect. And it's like it would become a family. It's like the Last Waltz crew of people. Like, and that was
when
like
was
the best
that
thing I ever did. That was November. This November will be 5 years.
Does it exist 21st. On video anywhere?
Not only does it exist on video, a guy filmed it. This guy Ryan Siebold, who's like a great.
That name sounds familiar to
him
me.
And this guy John Joe both filmed it.
Okay.
They used to film some stuff for GMF.
Okay.
That's how we found
I want to ask you about
Phil
GMF before you go too, but yeah.
But they filmed it, and he made a documentary of us doing it, and their documentary of us covering a documentary ended up getting accepted to Gasparilla Film Fest.
Where can I find this?
And on YouTube.
Is it?
If you go Have Gun Will Travel Last Waltz. But then we got asked to do it again for a thing the Holocaust Museum in St. Pete was doing for Bill Graham.
Okay.
And Phil Graham. Bill Graham.
Oh. Bill Graham.
Yeah. No, but for Phil Graham, the Holocaust Museum did this big thing about him, and they did the original Last Waltz was at the Winterland Ballroom, his place. So they asked if we do it again, and we did it at the Palladium again with almost everybody but 2 people had moved out of town and couldn't do it, so we replaced them. But and it was great again.
Do you get stressed out about these shows?
I get stressed out about every show.
Do you?
There's not a show. I am like, that was the only thing of not doing shows anymore for a while. It was like not looking at that door to see people come in.
Is that what the stress is?
That's part of it, but it's really everything. You want everybody to have a good time. And that's the thing with a promoter,
Just trying to think of all the things that could go wrong with the show. You want the fans to have a good time. You want the band to have a good time. The band doesn't show.
Everything.
No one comes
Somebody
to the show.
gets into a fight. Someone climbs on stage.
Yeah.
Someone gets hurt being stupid. Someone, and that's why Crowbar is always such a great place, because Tom is such an amazing help. Like, I've worked with tons of venues in Tampa, Orlando, St. Pete, Sarasota. I mean, even been to like a lot of venues and met the people in like Atlanta and Athens and Connecticut and stuff. And no one like Tom, where Tom is there when the band shows up to load in. Tom is helping them load in. Tom is there for the whole day.
It's because he's from
Tom
Philly.
Is there before.
It's because he's from Philly. He's got
not
that...
Philly. Don't tell Philly.
Oh, sorry,
He'll get mad.
Pittsburgh.
Yeah. He's closer to Pittsburgh.
Okay,
yeah.
My point
What's
is
the mistake by the lake? It's
Sorry,
it's
Tom.
the name of the city.
Don't beat me up.
Yeah. He's a Penn State boy.
Well, my point is though he's got that blue collar.
Oh yeah, no, he's those blue collars again, and he's the
yeah.
last one to leave. He's there to help. So like when you did a show at Crowbar, there was a little less worry because you knew Tom was going to be there and Tom was going to have your back, and Tom's staff is always really well run because Tom is the one who does it, and like Mike Rodriguez, who's the head of the security at the time, they're going to be on point and they're not going to mess around and they won't be overly
roughing people up.
There's that thing.
God.
There's the other way too. There's a lax security that lets everything slide and will screw it up, and then there's
like a bunch of guys who got a bone to pick with everybody. Yeah, for sure.
And so but every show you want it if you're doing it right and you care about it, you want everything to work out perfect. So I'm just always like the worrier, that, but once by the final band, usually I'm starting to chill out and enjoy the band. So, but at the beginning of every show, I'm freaking out.
Now,
but the last waltz with all the moving pieces, that was one of those. Can it work out?
Sounds amazing. I'm going to go home tonight.
But as it was happening, like smile ear to ear for me because it did work out. So like it kind of melted the fear away after the very first song. I was like, oh, okay.
Right.
We're doing this and it's working and everybody's here. And then the Palladium thing, they filmed that as well. And that wasn't as much documentary style. That was straight up just the concert itself. But that looked great because by then Ryan was like, oh, now I know what to do. And I got these new toys that I want to use. And so,
for sure.
Yeah, but it was, that was definitely the best as far as the show itself and like what it brought. Cause like I said, these bands that they never worked with now, they're like friends and they would go to each other's shows. Like Monica Delgado is an amazing vocalist, plays keyboard. She plays a lot of like more like soul music and some reggae stuff with this group Guam Massive and stuff like that. She had her own group Hotbox.
Great name.
And I'd be remiss, their drummer, Kinosabe Hercules, just passed away.
I saw that.
Big part of the Florida music
I
scene,
saw that.
Tampa music scene, and it's a shame. He was a great guy. Literally never not a smile on that guy's face. So, but she was one of the singers for, like, she played one of the staple singers.
Yeah.
And their worlds couldn't be more apart, but she showed up and she had a great time and she was amazing. And then like she had a show at the Hub and you look behind you and all the Have Gun guys are lined up there watching her. They came to her show now. It's like that love, like even I'm being lame, but I get a little goosebumps because that's what I loved about it. The relationships that I made in those 10 years. I mean, I met my wife at Crowbar at a show that I was throwing at a MERS hip hop show.
It's so true. And
it's not, like,
not to compare my situation to your situation, but This effectively started with me having lunch with Greg. And I had met Sean at Fort Greene Fields, and then I was just like, well, I know I can get a bunch of attorneys on, but maybe I can get someone in music every now and again. And then I was like, well, you should talk to this person. Well, you should talk to this person. Well, you should talk to this person. And so now I'm like, the mind reels like, send me that person, send me this person, send this other person. But it's great because it is very collegial. It is very fraternal. It is very, I don't hear a lot. And not to say that it's not out there, but I don't hear a lot of shit talking.
And even if there is, it's like more of a brotherly thing. Like, I mean, there's you end up making up.
Yeah.
Like with all the promoters in town, we were a rare town. Like bands would be shocked, like how we'd all get along pretty good, and we'd pump each other's shows if we didn't have a show that
even
night.
In different types of music,
stuff like that. Yeah. And it was one of those things where like, there'd be times where it'd be like that dick took that show, blah blah blah, and you'd be pissed at each other, and then the next week you're doing the show together, and it was one of those things where it's definitely familial. It's I think of all there's people that are like my best friends. Like in my wedding party was like mostly all people I met. There was like two old friends, but mainly it was all people I'd known from meeting from this business. And it was because like you spend a lot of nights like super late with each other, spilling your souls out and like, talking about that great night and that high off having a great concert, a great show. And that's
the
shared experience,
Well, before I send you home to Henry, I want to get just a quick glimpse of your time on the board with GMF.
I wasn't on the board.
Or whatever your involvement
what we did, we were essentially David Cox and Jeff Hunt first.
I know Jeff.
Had talked to Phil, my partner Phil Benito at Broken Mold. I knew Jeff already. I didn't really know. I knew David a little. We had done something. He was on the
every year I try and get Jeff to reach out to Dinosaur Jr. Dinosaur Jr.
We had done some stuff at Gasparilla International Film Fest, and that's how we knew Dave. And me and Phil had been kicking around because Curtis Hickson had just opened up, and I had done that thing with Manny forever ago in the amphitheater back in the day, and it was one of those full circle moments. And we were talking about, we need to use this new park and blah blah blah. Me and Phil had always wanted to do a bigger festival because we had already been doing that Annie Warp Festival, and those guys were thinking the same thing, and they like asked Phil to meet, and I'm like, all right, well, you meet up with those dudes. I'm gonna do this, and tell me what you think. And he's like, dude, I think this is like a real thing. And I'm like, all right. So we started putting together the festival. Like we were essentially the people who booked the acts, ran the production stage, kind of got a hold of all the press, just like from putting on the show aspect.
Right.
They were, doing the structure of like all the paperwork for the city and all the, putting together a board and making it like a non-for-profit. They had the business side and brought a lot of people in. And my partner Phil ended up being on the board, but Broken Mold was essentially their like promotion, production, and, booking for the first few years. And then I was there for 5 years, and
Were you there when
I
was
worked
it
the main
Okeechobee, or what
stage.
was the one that just opened up a little bit south, and then it became a competition for grabbing?
Yeah, that was
after you.
Yeah, I was there the first 5 or 6 years, I'd say, and then that's only been the last 3 years, and I think they're in like their 10th year.
I just remember hearing kind of through the grapevine that Father John Misty wanted like $60,000 or something, and then
dude, I'm sure it's way more than that.
Well, whatever it was, yeah,
it's crazy. Our first year, just for shits and giggles, we hit up this guy. Well, we hit a guy up, and he was talking about his roster, and he said Van Morrison was on his roster, and Phil was like, "Well, what did Van Morrison want?" And the guy's like, "Oh, you could probably get Van for like $500,000." It's like
that's our whole budget. Yeah.
Not even like that's our whole budget for a couple of years.
Yeah.
At that time, I'm sure it's close. Now I don't know what their budget is now, but like the first few years, that wasn't even there's guys that get that. And then as the festival thing became bigger and bigger, there's people that just live off. There's a band that's like, we're just going to tour all the festivals this year and charge an insane amount to each one of them, and they're usually all huge and sponsored by huge companies, so they're paying it, and it's like harder so it's impressive what they've been able to pull off, because it's really hard to get. I don't know. They just got under the gun this year. Like that's literally one of my last memories.
Yeah. So I have been to a concert this year. That was the only concert I've been to this year.
Yeah, I went to that, and then there was an after party Sunday night at Old Dirty Sunday with De La.
Yeah,
they were DJing. Maceo from De La was DJing.
Yeah,
and that's I want to say that's the last thing.
That was right as it was like.
It was one of those things, there were bands mentioning it.
Yeah.
Like, it was like just at the early stages where you're like, oh, this might fuck up a couple months of our life.
Right.
Like when you thought things would actually get taken care of. But there was no mask then. I remember it wasn't a big deal. I don't remember seeing anyone, maybe 1 or 2 people were wearing a mask.
Yeah.
But
could you imagine going to that now?
No one's going to anything now. I mean, I know like Bonnaroo canceled and Coachella canceled, and they have till March, but I don't see anybody scheduling.
I hear a lot of people saying 2022 now.
That's what I've heard. I've heard anywhere from late 2021 to early 2022. Unless something crazy happens, like, maybe we get the right person in office that'll actually embrace science and help us out.
Yeah.
Not to get political.
Oh, we can get political. Did you watch The Fly last night?
Yes, I did. I loved it. People get all upset about like joking about it, but I'm like, we all know what's going on and we're all depressed. If we could get like 2 minutes of humor in our lives about like mocking them, like, I don't know. It's one of those things. I know
if you can't laugh at it, how can you
and
live
we're
through it?
Unfortunately in the part in the world now where everyone watching that debate isn't getting swayed one way or the other. Everybody watching that debate's either wanting to watch Kamala rip him up or him rip her apart. There's no one like, I want to hear what these guys really have to say.
What scares me,
they don't even answer the questions anymore of the debate. It's just each of them kind of throwing their campaign rhetoric out for everybody to, consume.
No, 100%. But it scares me though, and is I don't like hearing this double digits and this, like, I don't want to hear that.
That's like deja vu. Like,
well, here's the other thing, and not to be super, super, like, I'm not a conspiracy guy at all. Like, I as much as possible always say there's a reasonable explanation for something.
Right.
Or 9/11 is not, all blah, 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 blah.
Right.
This is probably what happened, or Kennedy or whatever. But there has been a huge uptick lately of people friend requesting me on Facebook.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
And it's not like when it's
people you don't know at all.
Well, when it's people because of the show, it's like, oh, they know Sean Kyle, or they know Sean O'Brien, or they know Tom DeGeorge, or they know whatever. It's a lot of like one friend or two friends.
Yeah.
And it's really,
when I get that, it's usually a Facebook prostitute. But
oh yeah. Well, no, but
it's like, check out these pictures.
I'm like, is this a bunch of like Russians sitting in a warehouse?
Yeah, right. You get that a lot when you like, unfortunately, look at the comments of a shared news article and stuff like that. And I try so hard not to, because then I'll hop into some argument and then it's like the never ending. I try so hard not to get into the arguments anymore.
It's tough.
The bandwidth is so short for that right
26
now.
20 something days.
Yeah. And it won't, but it's not like everybody says that and it's like, it's not going to magically end there.
Well, the
that's
divisiveness
for knowing if it's going to be a blowout or not. Because if it's anything close, it's going to be
a fucking nightmare.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It's going to be a
4 or
fucking nightmare.
5 month nightmare.
Oh God. I just don't even know.
It has to be a blowout. Is the only way we could possibly
Please make it a blowout. Yeah. Please make it a blowout.
And that's what scares me is, like you said, you see that now and it's like, I really remember it supposedly being a blowout for Hillary forever. And the same thing, it's like deja vu, like the third party people are speaking up more. The people that are voting for Trump, voting for Biden, but have problems with him, are voicing their problems more and more. So it's one of those things as we get closer to the day of, like, you know, well, like all your Republican friends that say I'm not voting for him, but no one sees them in the voting booth. So, you know, like you're like, how many of them are actually
not only that, but I mean, 26 days is a lot of time to go to war with Korea or Iran or whatever, what the fuck ever.
Or you know? A Supreme Court issue that we're having. Like, who knows what's going to come from that? Like, you know, because they've made it to where we can't.
People got COVID from that Rose Garden meeting. It's like Jesus Christ.
Yeah, but not the good COVID.
Yeah.
They all got that light case.
They all got COVID light that doesn't kill you.
It's like crazy. But it's one of those things. We're in such a, who knows with anything anymore. The movie business, who knows when you're ever going to see a movie in a movie theater
My
anymore.
cousin works in Atlanta. Like, he's an assistant director and he got just royally fucked. I mean, it's crazy. It's
a mess. I've got a buddy that was working on the show for HBO, and he all of a sudden like had a lot of time on his hands, you know. And there's stuff like, even a buddy, this guy I'm Facebook friends. I'm just friends with mostly from Facebook. We had booked a band of his a few times and stuff like that. But he is a chef for Cinebistro, and he was just posting something. I was like, can I get that? And he's like, Cinebistro, we're open again. And I'm like, I really want to go eat that there, but I'm so scared to go. And some friends tag themselves at Tenet. They're like, there's no one else here. It's just us and 2 other people. Just go at this time.
I want to go see
and
that.
It's like, I want to go, but I just can't bring myself to do it, man. I think of that scene in Outbreak when the person sneezes in the movie theater and you see the little particles through the whole theater and everybody laughing and and I'm like, oh my God, that's all I think of every time. But I want to go so bad. I love movies. I
heard that because they pushed back James Bond, a bunch of theaters are closing again.
Yeah, Regal announced they're closing all their 500 and something theaters. They're like huge. I guess they're number one in England, but they have like 400 and something here. Yeah, they're closing them all. And they're like, I don't know if we'll ever open again. And like all the Marvel movies, I know they're going to end up, I mean, at least they have Disney Plus. They'll end up start throwing stuff on streaming. Right. But they keep pushing them back. But I mean, eventually you got to release the stuff that makes them dough. Yeah. Because I really don't know when there's going to be time you're going to have a sold out movie theater again. Yeah. Like I know it's not bouncing around like you're in a show, but you're still just sitting back to back. You're like right next to everybody in that theater.
I'm thinking of this horrible joke. I shouldn't say it, but it was just something about COVID was the worst thing that could ever happen to mass murderers or something.
Yeah, like that. That's what I mean. Remember that whole thing? It was like the first month with no school shootings. Was like the month that
do you remember
shut down
JCC?
School. Yeah.
That guy that was doing that?
Yeah, dude. My mom, I was scared to death for my mom. Yeah. Man. And that's why I would tell people, like my friends who would be for Trump, and they're like, but he's good for my money and stuff. I'm like, yeah, but you don't understand how it affects my life, like not monetarily, like worried about the life of my family. Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad you're paying less taxes. Yeah. It's like, and there's so many things like that. Like I was just saying, like school shooting, there was no school shootings for 2 months because there was no school for 2 months. Like, we were forced to calm down and sit at home and like, you know, and then that drove people crazy in a different way. But
well, I appreciate you coming by. Our families are going to start blowing up.
Yeah, no. Thank you for having me.
No, you're awesome.
It was a good time.
Hopefully you come back on. And
definitely. I'm going to try to get Andre Jones from Florida Night to come on at the next month.
I will wash your car. I'll do whatever you need me to do.
The end of this month because they're doing he's flying in town from New York for the Florida Night Heat show for Halloween. I'll try to get him on. He's definitely a fun conversation. So.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming by.
Thanks for having me, Josh. I appreciate it.
All right.